The blizzard hit like a freight train from hell, burying the Wyoming highway under a white shroud that swallowed taillights whole. Nicholas slammed on the brakes too late, his rented SUV fishtailing into a ditch with a crunch of metal and snow that echoed like a gunshot in the void. As the engine sputtered its last, he gripped the wheel, heart pounding, whispering to the empty cab, "Not like this. Not here." Gary Harlan wiped the frost from his kitchen window, squinting into the howling gale that clawed at his ranch house like an old enemy. The wind howled through the cracks in the barn, a sound he'd known since boyhood, but tonight it carried something fiercer, a desperation that made his cattle low uneasily in the corral. 38. Gary had learned to read the land like a book, its pages written in frostbite and faded denim. But this storm felt personal, as if the Rockies themselves were testing him one last time. He poured himself a mug of black coffee, the steam curling up like ghosts from his father's ghost, and glanced at the photo on the mantel, him and his dad, arms slung around each other after branding day, both grinning like fools under a sky bluer than regret. That was before the cancer, before the ranch debts piled up like snowdrifts, before Gary buried his old man under the aspens and swore he'd hold this place together with his bare hands. The Harlan spread, 500 acres of stubborn sagebrush and grazing land, had been in the family since the Homestead Acts, a patch of America that didn't bend for anyone. Not for blizzards, not for banks, and sure as hell not for the loneliness that crept in after dark. The CB radio crackled to life on the counter, spitting static before a voice broke through thin, edged with panic. "Mayday! Anyone copy? I'm off Highway 191. Mile marker 42. Vehicle's done." No signal on the cell. Gary leaned in, thumb hovering over the mic. Stranded fool, he thought, probably some city slicker-chasing adventure on a whim. But the voice trembled, young and alone, and something in it tugged at Gary's gut like a half-healed scar. "Copy that," Gary drawled, his Wyoming twang thick as molasses. "This is Harlan Ranch, 3 miles west. Sit tight. I'll come get you." The line hissed back gratitude, faint as a prayer. Gary shrugged into his shearling coat, the one his dad had worn threadbare, and grabbed the keys to his battered Ford F-250. The truck roared to life against the storm's fury, headlights carving tunnels through the whiteout as he navigated the backroads by memory alone. Branches whipped the windshield like accusations, and for a moment, he wondered why he was doing this, risking his neck for a stranger when the feed bills were due and the vet was hounding him about the lame mare. Mile marker 42 loomed out of the swirl, and there it was. A crumpled SUV nosed into the embankment, his hood popped like a broken wing. Gary killed the engine and trudged through knee-deep powder, his boots crunching with purpose. He yanked open the driver's door, and a blast of cold air rushed out, carrying the scent of leather and fear sweat. The man inside was huddled in a wool peacoat that screamed East Coast money. Khakis, loafers caked in slush, a wool scarf unraveling at the edges. Mid-30s, maybe, with tousled chestnut hair plastered to his forehead and green eyes wide as a deer's in headlights. He looked up, breath fogging the air, and managed a shaky smile. "You the cavalry?" Gary snorted, extending a gloved hand. "More like the Undertaker if you freeze out here. Name's Gary. Grab your bag and let's move." The stranger clasped his hand, cold fingers, firm grip, and climbed out, staggering against the wind. Nicholas. Nicholas Hale. "God, I owe you." They piled into the truck, Nicholas shivering violently as Gary cranked the heat. The cab filled with the awkward silence of two men thrown together by fate, broken only by the wiper's rhythmic slap. Gary stole glances. Nicholas's profile sharp against the storm, a faint stubble shadowing his jaw, lips chapped blue. Handsome in that polished way that made Gary feel like rough-hewn oak next to marble, soft around the edges, but with a quiet strength in the way he didn't complain. "You from around here?" Nicholas asked, teeth chattering. "Born and raised." "You, Chicago." Was heading to Jackson Hole 4. "Work." He trailed off, rubbing his arms. Gary noted the hesitation, the way Nicholas's eyes flicked to the window, as if the storm mirrored something churning inside. The ranch house glowed like a beacon when they crested the hill, its lanterns flickering against the night. Gary led Nicholas inside, stomping snow off their boots in the mudroom. The place was sparse. Pine floors worn smooth by generations, a stone fireplace crackling with fresh split pine, the air thick with the scent of wood smoke and yesterday's stew. "Kitchen's that way." "I'll stoke the fire." Nicholas nodded, shedding his coat like a skin. Underneath, a button-down clung damply to his frame, outlining shoulders broader than Gary expected. He busied himself with the kettle, avoiding those green eyes that seemed to see too much. "Coffee? Or something stronger?" "Whatever you've got." Nicholas perched on a stool at the scarred oak island, his gaze roaming the room. Photos of Gary as a kid on a pony, faded ribbons from county fairs, a worn Bible on the shelf. "This place. It's like stepping into a John Wayne movie." "You run it alone." Gary poured whiskey into mugs, the amber liquid glinting like hidden fire. "Just me and the hands during calving season. Dad passed last year. Left me the deed and a mountain of regrets." He slid a mug over, their fingers brushing electric, unintended. Gary pulled back quick, heat rising in his chest that had nothing to do with the stove. Nicholas sipped, wincing at the burn. "I'm sorry. Losing family. It hollows you out." His voice softened, laced with a sorrow that mirrored Gary's own. "My folks are gone too. Car wreck when I was 20. Been drifting since." The words hung between them, a bridge over the chasm of shared loss. Gary leaned against the counter, arms crossed over his flannel shirt, the fabric straining against his chest. He'd always been built solid, broad shoulders from wrestling steers, hands calloused from rope and rain, but in that moment, under Nicholas's steady gaze, he felt exposed, like a colt testing unsteady legs. "Tell me about Chicago," Gary said, steering the talk to safer ground. "What brings a city boy out to God's country in December?" Nicholas chuckled, low and warm, chasing the chill from the air. "A job interview. Architect gig at a firm designing eco-lodges. Thought it'd be romantic. Flying out, seeing the Tetons up close." He gestured vaguely at the storm. "Turns out Mother Nature has a sense of humor." Gary laughed, a rumble from deep in his belly, the first real one in months. "She does at that. Stay as long as you need. Roads'll be closed till morning, maybe longer." Gratitude lit Nicholas's face, softening the lines of exhaustion. They talked late into the night, whiskey loosening tongues. Gary spinning yarns about roundup chases and summer rodeos, Nicholas sharing tales of skyline views and anonymous hookups in dive bars that left him emptier than before. Neither mentioned the undercurrent, the way their eyes lingered a beat too long, the accidental press of knees under the table. By midnight, The storm had eased to a whisper, snow piling against the windows like forgotten promises. Gary showed Nicholas to the guest room, his old bedroom, really, with a quilt his mom had stitched and a window overlooking the starlit pasture. Sleep tight. Holler if you need anything. Nicholas paused in the doorway, hand on the frame. Gary. Thanks. For more than the ride. Their eyes met, charged with unspoken weight. Gary nodded, throat tight. Night. Nick. Alone in his room. Gary stripped down to boxers, the chill raising gooseflesh on his skin. He lay staring at the ceiling beams, heart thudding like a drum in an empty hall. That brush of fingers replayed in his mind, warm against the cold night. It had been years since he'd let anyone close. Not since Jake, the rodeo cowboy who'd ridden off with Gary's trust and half his pride. Men like that left marks deeper than brands. Down the hall, Nicholas tossed under the covers, the ranch's quiet a stark contrast to the city's ceaseless hum. Gary's voice echoed in his head, gruff, kind, laced with a vulnerability that cracked his polished armor. It had been ages since connection felt this real, not the fleeting flings that papered over the void left by his parents' graves. But tomorrow, the plows would come, and he'd be gone. Best not to dream. Morning broke crisp and diamond clear, the world reborn in white. Gary rose with the sun, boots thumping down the stairs as he fired up the stove for biscuits and gravy. The aroma wafted through the house, pulling Nicholas from sleep like a siren's call. He wandered into the kitchen in borrowed sweats. Gary's, too big but smelling of pine and earth, hair tousled, feet bare. Morning, Gary said, plating food with practiced ease. Sleep okay? Like a rock. That bed's a dream. Nicholas slid onto the stool, forking into the meal with enthusiasm. This is incredible. My cooking tops out at takeout. Gary watched him eat, a smile tugging his lips. Stick around a day. I'll show you real Wyoming grub venison chili. Maybe. Nicholas's fork paused. I should call the rental place. Get towed. But the lines were down. The world cut off. Fate, seemed, had other plans. They spent the day in companionable rhythm. Gary checking fences on snowshoes, Nicholas trailing with a borrowed coat, asking questions that peeled back layers about the ranch's history, the wild mustangs that roamed the ridges, the quiet ache of holidays alone. By afternoon, they were knee-deep in the barn, mucking stalls side by side, laughter echoing off the rafters when Nicholas slipped in the hay and Gary caught him, hands steady on his waist. Sorry, Nicholas murmured, not pulling away immediately. Gary's grip lingered, thumbs brushing flannel, the air thick with hay dust and possibility. Steady there, Gary whispered, voice rough as gravel. He let go, stepping back, but the heat stayed. That evening, snowed in deeper, they cracked open a deck of cards by the fire. Poker, strip optional, but they kept it clean, stakes raised on stories instead. Nicholas folded on a bad hand, sighing. All right, truth, worst heartbreak. Gary dealt slowly, firelight dancing in his eyes. Ex named Jake. Promised forever, then ghosted with my truck and my savings. Left me questioning everything. Nicholas's gaze softened. Bastard. Mine was. Realizing the guy I thought was the one was just using me to look good at parties. Came out to my folks young. But love? That's the real coming out. Gary nodded, cards forgotten. Yeah. This life, it's hard enough without hiding. The words bridged them, tentative but true. As flames popped, Nicholas reached across, hand covering Gary's. No words, just touch warm, anchoring. Gary turned his palm up, fingers lacing, and in that simple act, the walls cracked. Night fell soft, the house holding its breath. They parted with a hug at the bedroom doors, brief, but electric, bodies aligning like puzzle pieces long lost. By dawn, the plows rumbled through, carving paths back to the world. Nicholas stood in the mudroom, bag packed, coat slung over his arm. Gary, don't say goodbye. Gary's voice was low, urgent. Come back. After your interview. See the ranch in spring. Different. Nicholas searched his face, heart swelling. I will. Promise. The kiss was inevitable, soft at first, then deepening with the hunger of men starved for home. Gary's hands framed Nicholas's face, thumbs tracing jawlines, while Nicholas clutched his shirt, pulling him closer. It tasted of whiskey and want, of storms weathered together. When they broke, breathless, Nicholas whispered, 2 weeks. Jackson hold firm. Then I'm yours, if you'll have me. Gary grinned, fierce and tender. Always. The truck's taillights faded into the blue, leaving Gary on the porch, hand to his lips, Wyoming vast and waiting. 2 weeks blurred into a frenzy for Nicholas. Endless meetings in Jackson's sleek offices, blueprints sprawling across conference tables like veins of untapped dreams. The firm was everything he'd chased. Glass walls framing snow-capped peaks, colleagues with ivy accents and bold ideas for sustainable retreats that blended luxury with the wild. He nailed the interview, landing the lead architect role on a Teton Lodge project. Salary enough to bury his Chicago ghosts. But every blueprint bore Gary's shadow, the ranch's sturdy lines echoing in his designs, the endless horizon seeping into his sketches. Nights, he paced hotel rooms, phone clutched like a lifeline. Calls with Gary stitched the miles. Lazy drawls about foaling mares and fence men's, punctuated by Nicholas's updates on permitting hurdles and supply chains. Laughter bridged the gap, but longing sharpened each word. Miss the quiet, Nicholas admitted one midnight, city lights bleeding through curtains. Miss you more, Gary's chuckle rumbled low. Get your city ass back here. Spring's comin', wildflowers'll knock you flat. On the 15th day, Nicholas loaded his new Jeep, rental traded for something rugged, and pointed it west. The drive unspooled like a ribbon, asphalt giving way to gravel, billboards to buttes, the air thickening with pine and promise. Doubt nipped at his heels. What if this was madness? Trading skyline stability for sagebrush solitude? But Gary's voice anchored him. You're home when you choose it. The ranch gate creaked open under his tires, dust devils dancing in the April sun. Gary was there, leaning on a post in faded Levi's and a Henley that hugged his frame, hat tipped back to reveal sun-kissed skin. No words, just a stride across the yard, arms enveloping Nicholas in a crush of flannel and earth, lips claiming his with a hunger honed by absence. God, I missed this, Gary murmured against his neck, breath hot. Nicholas melted into him, hands roaming the familiar planes of back and shoulder, the world narrowing to heartbeat sync. They broke for air, foreheads pressed. Show me, Nicholas said, grinning. You're Wyoming in spring. Gary did, hours blurring in a haze of discovery. They saddled bays for a ridge ride, wind whipping mainies as eagles wheeled overhead, the land unfurling in carpets of lupin and paintbrush. Atop the bluff, overlooking the spread, Gary reined in, gesturing wide. All this. Dad said it chooses you, keeps you if you're worthy. Nicholas dismounted, tracing Gary's arm where a tattoo peaked. Coordinates etched in faded ink. The ranch's heart. Worthy? You built this from ashes. That's more than coordinates. Gary's eyes darkened, vulnerability flickering. After Jake, I swore off letting anyone in. Thought this land was enough. He cupped Nicholas's cheek, thumb rough against smooth. Then you blew in like that damn blizzard. They kissed there, slow and deep, the horses grazing forgotten. Hands explored with reverence. Gary's calluses mapping Nicholas's collarbone. Nicholas's fingers threading Gary's hair, pulling him earthward. It was affirmation, not conquest. Two men claiming space in each other's worlds. Back at the house, dusk painted the kitchen gold as they cooked. Gary's elk steak searing. Nicholas chopping greens with clumsy enthusiasm. Wine flowed. Stories spilled. Nicholas's childhood sketches of impossible bridges. Gary's rodeo bruises that taught him grace under fire. Laughter wove through, easy as breathing, until plates cleared and the fire beckoned. Curled on the rug, Nicholas's head on Gary's chest. They talked futures, Nicholas commuting for the project. Weekends here. Gary musing on solar panels for the barn, blending old ways with new. We could build something, Gary said. Voice hushed. A life. Nicholas lifted, green eyes fierce. We will. Sleep came tangled, bodies fitting like they'd always known the shape. Dawn found them stirring to birdsong, Gary's lips brushing Nicholas's temple, a promise sealed in light. Weeks melted into rhythm. Nicholas's days in Jackson drafting elevations that whispered of the ranch's soul, evenings racing gravel roads home. Gary waited with suppers steaming and arms open, their nights a tapestry of quiet intimacies. Shared baths drawing constellations on fogged mirrors, slow dances to Waylon Jennings on the porch, confessions whispered in the dark. But cracks spiderwebbed subtle. Nicholas's phone buzzed with emails, delays on permits, investor calls demanding bolder visions. Gary noticed the furrow in his brow, the way he'd pace after dinner, sketching furiously. You okay? He'd ask, hand on Nicholas's knee. Fine, Nicholas lied, smiling tight. Just work. Truth was heavier. The firm pushed for a luxury overhaul, concrete sprawl eclipsing eco-dreams. And deeper, a secret nod his ex, Daniel, the polished attorney who'd shattered him, emailing olive branches from Chicago. Miss you. We were good once. Nicholas deleted them, but the poison lingered, whispering unworthiness. One May evening, thunderheads brewed as Nicholas pulled up, mud-splattered from a site visit. Gary met him at the door, concern etching his face. Rough day. Worse. Nicholas sagged into the hug, inhaling safety. Investors want to gut the green angle, turn it into another McMansion retreat. Gary led him inside, pouring bourbon neat. Fight it. That's why they hired you. Nicholas swirled the glass, amber catching lamplight. Maybe I fight too much. Daniel always said. Who? Gary's tone sharpened, casual veil slipping. Nicholas froze, then sighed. Ex. From Chicago. Toxic as hell. Used me like a prop. Gary's jaw tightened, but he nodded. Heard that story before. Don't let it rewrite yours. The storm broke then, rain lashing windows like judgment. They made love by thunder's roar, urgent, reclaiming, Gary's hands erasing old wounds, Nicholas's gasps a litany of now. Afterward, spent and slick, Nicholas traced Gary's scars. Tell me about Jake. Gary's chest rose slow. Met at a bar in Casper. Rough rider, all charm and fire. Moved in quick, talked big about partners in the spread. Then one morning, gone truck, cash, half the tools. Left a note, couldn't play house forever. Nicholas pressed lips to the hollow of Gary's throat. He was blind. This us, it's real. Gary held him tighter, but dawn brought no ease. At breakfast, Nicholas's phone trilled, firm head, voice clipped, hail, boards leaning corporate. Your call tomorrow could sway it. He hung up, appetite fled. Gary watched, silent, then go get him. I'll be here. Nicholas drove off, resolve stealing, but the meeting unraveled, suits droning ROI. His pleas drowned in spreadsheets. Vision without profit's a hobby, the CEO snapped. Defeated, he texted Gary, lost the battle. Home late. Gary's reply, proud anyway. Steak thawing. But homecoming soured. Nicholas arrived wired, slamming cabinets, bourbon bottle clinking too loud. They don't get it. It's not just buildings, it's legacy. Gary poured a glass. Steady. Then walk. Find a firm that does. Easy for you lands in your blood. Mine's debt and drafts. Nicholas paced, words spilling venom. Daniel warned me, dreamers starve. Gary stiffened, mug set down hard. That again? He's poison. Nick. Let him go. Nicholas whirled, eyes flashing. You don't know him. He saw me, flaws and all, stayed longer than most. Stayed to use you. Gary's voice rose. Rob. I see you. Every damn day. But you gotta see yourself. Silence crashed, heavier than rain. Nicholas grabbed his keys. Need air. The door banged shut, taillights carving night. Gary sank to a chair, head in hands, the house echoing empty. Fool, he thought. Rushed too fast, scared him off. Nicholas drove blind, tears blurring blacktop, pulling over at the ridge where they'd first kissed. Daniel's texts burned in his pocket. Call me. We can fix this. Weakness clawed, familiarity over fear. Hours later, he returned, porch light a beacon. Gary waited, arms crossed, face storm-shadowed. Thought you left for good. Almost. Nicholas stepped close, voice breaking. I'm scared, Gary. Of failing you. Of this being another crash. Gary pulled him in, fierce. We crashed together. That's the deal. Forgiveness sealed in salt and skin. They rebuilt bricks of trust, mortar of time. Nicholas pushed back at work, compromising without surrender, while Gary shared ranch ledgers, vulnerabilities bared like open books. June bloomed riotous, their love ripening, picnics under cottonwoods, hands linked in truck cabs, whispers of forever amid fireflies. But fate, cruel jester, plotted twists. A letter arrived mid-month. Postmarked Chicago, Daniel's handwriting, elegant scrawl. Nicholas tore it open alone in the Jeep, heart seizing. Found something of yours. Coming west to return it. And talk. D. Gary found him later, staring vacant at the horizon. Bad news. Nicholas crumpled the paper. Old ghosts. He burned it that night. Ashes to wind, but embers smoldered. Summer scorched the valley, turning sage to tinder and tempers to flint. Nicholas threw himself into the lodge project. Blueprints evolving into something hybrid, green bones with gilded edges, a compromise that bought time but chipped his soul. Commutes stretched, hotel nights multiplying as site surveys demanded dawn starts. Gary filled days with haying and herd counts, but evenings yawned empty, the house's silence a reproach. They clung to stolen moments. Friday drives with windows down, radio crooning Merle Haggard, Gary's hand on Nicholas's thigh a talisman against the miles. Miss you fierce? Gary murmured one dusk, pulling over at a forgotten ford, river murmuring secrets. They made love in the truck bed, stars wheeling overhead, bodies urgent as if time conspired against them. But distance bred doubt. Gary's voicemails grew terse, cows broke fence. All good. While Nicholas's replies skimmed surface, swamped. Love you. Daniel's shadow loomed unspoken. His texts a drip feed. Flight lands Friday. Jackson Airport. Let's bury hatchets. Nicholas blocked the number, but the what-ifs festered. July 4th dawned blistering. The ranch hosting a low-key barbecue for neighbors, cookout tradition Gary's dad had kept sacred. Nicholas arrived dusty from a rebar pour, tie loosened, grin wide. Brought pie from town. Apple, your favorite. Gary swept him into the kitchen, kiss tasting of charcoal smoke. Heroes welcome, but eyes betrayed worry, Nicholas thinner, shadows under his eyes like bruises. The gathering swelled, weathered faces in lawn chairs, kids chasing sparks from the grill, fireworks popping against twilight. Gary manned the spits, stories flying thick as flies, tales of 89 floods and bumper crops. Nicholas mingled awkward, khakis clashing with Carhartts, but warmed under Gary's proud glances, the way he'd sling an arm around his waist. Casual claim. As stars pricked velvet sky, Daniel appeared like a specter materializing from smoke. Tall, blonde, suit crisp amid denim sea, scanning the crowd with predatory poise. Nicholas's beer slipped, fizzing on boot leather. What the? Daniel spotted him, smile slicing sharp. Nick, knew I'd find you. That letter? Took liberties tracking the firm. Gary materialized, hand on Nicholas's shoulder, voice mild thunder. Friend of yours. Nicholas swallowed dry. X. Daniel, this is Gary. Eyes appraised. Daniel's cool. The rancher. Charmed. Nick and I go way back, Windy City nights. You know, tension crackled, fireworks masking it. Gary's grip tightened fractionally. Heard. Pull up a chair. Burgers. Daniel declined smooth, pulling Nicholas aside by the barn. Came to return this. He pressed a velvet box into Nicholas's palm engagement ring, sapphire-eyed, from their almost wedding. And say I'm sorry. Really. That job offer? Is bait. I miss us. Come home. Nicholas's pulse thundered, ring burning like accusation. We're done, Dan. I have a life here. With him. Daniel's laugh cut glass. Cowboy charm fades. You need city pulse, not dust. Footsteps crunched. Gary. Shadow long. Everything square? Daniel smirked, retreating. For now. Think on it. Nick. He vanished into night, taillights winking farewell. Gary waited, arms crossed. What the hell was that? Nicholas pocketed the ring. Leaden. Closure. Old crap. But Gary's eyes bored through. Looked like fresh wounds. Talk to me. Exhaustion cracked Nicholas open. He proposed once. I said yes. Blind idiot. Then found his side interests, men, women, whoever. Shattered me. Gary deflated, pulling him close. Why hide it? Fear. You'd think. I'm damaged goods. Never. Gary's kiss grounded. Fierce. We're all cracked. Fits us better. Fireworks crescendoed, masking sobs as Nicholas clung. Ring discarded in dirt. They rejoined the party, hands linked defiant, but seed of discord sprouted. Days after, Daniel's poison bloomed. Anonymous email to the firm, CC'd Gary, somehow sniffed out Nicholas Hale's conflicts of interest. See attached. PDF spilled, blurred photos from Chicago parties, Nicholas arm in arm with donors, whispers of favoritism. Gary opened it at dawn, coffee curdling. Nicholas, frantic call, it's lies. Payback. But damage rippled. Firm sidelined him from key meetings, whispers of ethics probes. Gary believed, but trust frayed. How'd he get my email? I don't know. Nicholas paced the kitchen, voice rising. Blocked him everywhere. Gary rubbed temples. Feels like you're half gone already. The accusation landed like a slap. Nicholas stormed out, Jeep kicking gravel. He holed in Jackson, drowning doubt in bar stools. Daniel's texts unblocked in weakness. See? He's pushing you away. We fit. Back at ranch. Gary rode fences alone, anger cooling to ache. Jake's betrayal echoed, lies, theft, abandonment. Was history rhyming? Reconciliation came halting. Nicholas at door, eyes red-rimmed, pie crust apology in hand. I shut him out. For good. Gary forgave, arms opening, but scar tissue formed, conversations clipped, touches tentative. Nicholas poured into work redemption, firm clearing him after groveling, but promotion dreams dimmed. August heat wave baked tensions higher. A cattle rustle hit the spread. Dozen head vanished overnight. Sheriff shrugging transients. Gary fumed. Patrols doubling. Sleep evading. Nicholas offered designs for security cams. But Gary snapped, this ain't your concrete jungle. Hurt flickered. Trying to help. Help by staying put. Not chasing ghosts. Nights cooled. Bed a battlefield of unsaid barbs. Nicholas dreamed of Chicago spires. Gary of empty porches. Love teetered, fragile as August lightning. Then, climax brewed, Daniel's final gambit. Voicemail left on Gary's landline. Sly, ask your boy about the ring. Still wears it under his shirt? Gary confronted at supper. Voice steel. Ring? From him. Nicholas paled. Fork clattering. Burned it. Swear. But doubt's vine strangled. Show me. Humiliation burned as Nicholas stripped shirt. Bare chest mocking. See? Gone. Gary sagged. Shame flooding. God. Nick. I'm sorry. Jake's ghost. Enough. Nicholas shoved back. Chair scraping. I'm not him. But if you can't trust, Door slammed, night swallowing him. Gary chased to the ridge, finding Nicholas huddled, tears carving mud. Don't, Nicholas choked. I love you. But love without faith, it's cage. Gary knelt, cradling. I know. Forgive this fool. Dawn mended, raw honesty their glue. They vowed transparency, no secrets, full hearts. Daniel faded, blocked eternally. Fall whispered in, leaves turning gold as they healed. Harvest brought unity. Nicholas hay-baling beside Gary, sweat slick and laughing, hands brushing electric. They talked legacies, ranch expansions, lodge collaborations weaving their worlds. But winter loomed, and with it, truth's blade. September winds stripped trees bare, mirroring the raw edges they'd sanded smooth. Nicholas's project crested, lodge groundbreaking under crisp skies, earth movers scarring soil like fresh wounds. He stood ribbon-ready, suit starched, Gary beside impressed wranglers, hat doffed respectful. Cameras flashed, speeches droned, but Nicholas's eyes sought Gary's, steady anchor in the circus. Damn proud, Gary murmured post-ceremony, arms slung low. Your mark on this land. Nicholas leaned in, voice low. Ours. Wait till you see the stables, your input. Grins shared. They escaped to the ranch. Champagne swapped for beer on the tailgate. Stars pricking early. Talks turned deep. Childhood ranches for Gary. Urban escapes dreamed in Nicholas's youth. Always wanted roots. Nicholas confessed. Head on Gary's shoulder. Thought cities had M. Wrong. Gary kissed his temple. Found em here. With me. October chilled. Calving prep frenzying days. Nicholas sketched barn retrofits between feed runs. Their partnership blooming practical. His eye for efficiency tempering Gary's tradition. Neighbors noted. Nods approving. Harlan's got a keeper. But betrayal's specter stirred. A package arrived unmarked. Manila envelope. No return. Gary slid it open. Photos spilling. Nicholas and Daniel. Recent. Jackson Airport hug. Innocent goodbye after confrontation, but cropped damning. Note typed. Loyalty's a myth. Ask him. Rage boiled. Gary drove to town unannounced, finding Nicholas at the site trailer. Blueprints strewn. Explain this. Nicholas blanched. Images fanning. Dan. Staged. I told him to leave. Lies. Gary hurled the envelope. Again? After vows. Workers gawked. Nicholas herded him out. Voice pleading. Trust me. Please. Can't. Gary stormed to truck. Tires spinning fury. Home. He drowned in whiskey. Memories of Jake's duplicity fusing with now truck gone. Bed cold. Heart flayed. Nicholas followed. Pounding door till knuckles bled. Let me in. Gary yanked open. Eyes wild. Why? To spin more yarn. Tears carved Nicholas's face. No. To fight for us. He shoved inside. Door slamming. Dan ambushed. Airport drop-off for his rental. Nothing more. Photos twisted. Convenient. Gary paced. Bottle clutched. You're slipping away. Late nights. Secret calls. Nicholas recoiled. Paranoia. Not secrets, stress. Projects hemorrhaging budget. I'm fixing it. Fixing us. Gary's voice cracked. Or running back to suits? Sobs racked Nicholas. Love you. But this, your doubt. It's killing me. Gary shattered the bottle. Shards glittering accusation. Then go, before you steal my soul too. Words landed lethal. Nicholas fled, jeep vanishing into gloam. He crashed at a motel. Phone silent, heart splintered. Dawn. He packed Chicago-bound, job be damned. Love lost. Gary woke to empty kitchen. Nicholas's mug cold on counter. Regret tsunamied. Calls ignored. Voicemails begging come back. I'm broken. Not you. But Nicholas boarded flight. Ringless hand trembling. Wyoming shrinking below. November grayed the land. Gary hollowed. Ranch chores mechanical. Smiles forced for hands. Neighbors pried gentle. Hail boy gone. Gary shrugged. Business. Truth nod, he'd driven away light. Letters penned. Unsent. Forgive my fear. You're home. Chicago swallowed Nicholas. Lake winds biting sharper than regret. Firm reassigned his project. Condolences veiled schadenfreude. Nights. He wandered Gold Coast bars. Echoes of old flings mocking. Daniel called. Smug. Told you. Doors open. Shut it. Nicholas snarled. Hanging. But loneliness clawed. Gary's drawl haunting dreams. Thanksgiving loomed solitary. Nicholas stared at untouched turkey. Phone buzzing, Gary's number. Blocked in pain. Unblock. Listen. Voice gravel rough. Miss you. Ranch feels dead. Come home, please. Tears blurred. Flight booked impulse. Heart-pounding descent into Jackson snow. Ranch lights beckoned. Gary on porch. Silhouette etched frost. Nicholas crunched gravel. Bag dropped. Gary crossed. Crushing embrace. Don't talk. Just stay. Inside. Fire roared welcome. They curled wordless. Thawing layers. Dawn. Truth spilled. Gary's confession. Jake's theft included forged checks. Trust eviscerated. Nicholas's omission. Daniel's airport ploy baited by desperation. Photos emailed anonymous. Forgive, Nicholas whispered. Already did. Gary's kiss sealed. Tender. Learnin' curve. Winter deepened. Mending methodical. They shovel drives tandem. Breaths clouding laughter. Decorated pine with heirloom ornaments. Stories weaving past. Nicholas's firm allowed remote tweaks. Tethering him west. But climax brewed insidious. Ranch auction notice. Slipped in mail. Bank foreclosing, debts dad hid. Interest compounding silent. Gary stared numb. World tilting. Nicholas found him at kitchen table. Papers splayed. How long? Months. Ignored calls. Thought I could scrape by. Rage. Then resolve. Fight. Together. Gary's laugh bitter. With what? Your fancy degree. Hurt flashed. But Nicholas gripped hands. Our fight. Lawyers. Grants. Ecotourism tie-in with the lodge. Debate raged nights. Gary's pride warring surrender. Nicholas's optimism clashing realism. This lands me, Gary growled one storm-lashed eve. Lose it. Lose everything. Then we save it. Nicholas's eyes blazed. For us. Future. Kiss born of desperation. They plotted, Nicholas cold-calling nonprofits. Gary tallying assets. Hope flickered. Fragile. December solstice neared. Auction date circled red. Daniel's final strike. Email to bank. CC'd all fabricated claims of Nicholas's. Fraudulent endorsements. tainting the ranch partnership. Scandal erupted. Sheriff's visit. Questions pointed. Gary, cornered, lashed. Your ex again? Tainting everything. Nicholas shattered. Swore it over. Never is. Gary roared. Out before you drag us under. Door crashed. Nicholas exiled to blizzard. He drove blind, wrecking mild in drift, irony's echo. Rescued by passerby, motel refuge, he curled fetal, love's ruin absolute. Gary, alone, unearthed the truth. Emails traced to Daniel's IP. Confession coerced via PI. Remorse avalanche. Truck gunned through whiteout. Motel sleuthing frantic. Found Nicholas dawn pale. Fevered. Go, Nicholas mumbled. Poison. No. Gary bundled him home. Care fierce. Broths. Compresses. Whispers atonement. My fault. Drove you to him. Healing slow. Fevers breaking to talks raw. Nicholas. Fought for wrong things. Should have fought for you sooner. Gary. I armored too thick. Let fear win. Christmas Eve. Snow blanketing grace. They vowed anew. No ghosts. Only now. Gifts simple. Nicholas's locket with Dad's photo for Gary. Gary's engraved bridle, partners forever. But auction loomed. Shadow long. January clawed with sub-zero fangs. The auction a guillotine blade suspended. Gary and Nicholas marshaled allies. Neighbors pledging bonds. Nicholas's firm sponsoring green grants. Lawyer haggling extensions. Days blurred siege. Calls to D.C. Reps. Petitions circling county fairs. Crowdfunding pleas viral on socials. Save Harlan Ranch. Legacy over loss. Media sniffed blood. Local news vans crunching drive. Reporters probing. Gay couples stand. Romance or rebellion? Gary bristled. But Nicholas spun gold. Love for land. For each other. That's American as apple pie. Support swelled, donations trickling to torrent. Strangers moved by photos of frost-rimed barns. Gary's calloused hands on fated deed. Daniel's sabotage recoiled. Lawsuit filed. His Chicago firm distancing. Career crumbling. Yet doubt gnawed. Auction eve. Bank ultimatum. Full sum or gavel falls. Short by thousands. Gary paced loft. Whiskey untouched. Can't. After all. Nicholas barred door. I steal. We can. He revealed ace. Personal nest egg. Chicago savings liquidated. Roots cost. Worth every cent. Gary's throat bobbed. Your security. Our. Kiss sealed pact. Desperate tender. Dawn of sale. Courthouse packed. Neighbors shoulder to shoulder. Banners waving Harlan stays. Bidding opened fierce. Speculators slavering. Voices climbing. Gary stood stoic. Nicholas's hand vice in his. Counterbid surged. Anonymous. Ballooning. Gasps rippled. Gary paled. Who? Gavel hovered. Then. Bitter rose. Grizzled elder. Face familiar Mr. Ellis. Neighboring spread owner. Rival once. Full amount. But condition Harlan keeps it. My gift, for your dad. Who pulled me from '08 crash. Thunderous cheers. Tears carved Gary's cheeks. Nicholas crushed hug. Sobs mingling. Home. Aftermath blurred triumph. Handshakes. Toasts at the watering hole. Headlines hailing miracle in Wyoming. Daniel's defeat sealed. Settlement quiet. Exile east. Spring returned. Ranch reborn. They broke ground on hybrid venture, eco-cabins dotting fringes, Gary's steers grazing sustainable pastures, Nicholas's designs breathing life. Love deepened pastoral. Mornings tangled in sheets sun-dappled, evenings stargazing from hayloft, bodies and souls entwined without frenzy, comfort's quiet fire. But humanism's thread wove deeper, outreach bloomed. Gary mentored at-risk youth, roping clinics teaching grit. Nicholas volunteered blueprints for low-income housing, bridging urban-rural divides. Their story rippled, podcasts inviting, couples mailing thanks. You showed us it's possible. Summer solstice, 1 year post-blizzard. They gathered kin, Gary's cousin Bess, Nicholas's sister flown west for backyard vows. No frills, hay bales pews, wildflowers bouquets, judge neighborly. Rings exchanged simple, silver bands etched coordinates, dual homes. I vow, Gary intoned, voice steady, to shelter you through every storm, build with you every dream. Nicholas, eyes shining, to wander with you, find home in your heart. Kiss sealed under aspen shade, cheers erupting, cake berry sweet. Yet life layered nuance. Conflicts lingered mild, Gary's traditionalism clashing Nicholas's innovations, petty spats over fence lines or late suppers. But resolutions honed them, apologies swift, compromises kind. Fall harvest crowned bounty. First cabin rentals booked solid. Headlines praising Harlan Haven, where love meets land. They stood porch-railed, arms linked, valley gold below. Winter whispered return. First snow dusting like benediction. By fire, mulled cider steaming, Nicholas traced Gary's laugh lines. Think we made it? Gary pulled closer, lips brushing ear. More than. We found what we lost, each other. But Tale's humanism bloomed bittersweet. News came gentle. Nicholas's checkup, lump benign but wake up, fragility's reminder. Gary held vigil, vowing cherishing fiercer. In quiet, they reflected. Betrayals forged tempered strength. Conflicts carved depth. Love's romance rooted human, flawed, enduring. As year wheeled, ranch thrived. Their bond testament. In America's vast heart, two men proved home not place, but promise kept. Word count, 998. Wait, this is only up to part 5. But the story needs 6 parts. Extending to full climax and resolution. Deeper into winter. A final test. Wildfire sparked ridges. Flames licking fences like vengeful tongues. Evacuations ordered. Cattle stampeded. Gary and Nicholas herded chaos. Trucks loaded. Hoses futile against inferno. In Maelstrom, Gary twisted ankle bad. Nicholas carrying him dashed to safety. Lungs searing. Shelter in town gym. Cots side by side. They huddled. Ash-streaked. Lost half the herd, Gary rasped. Pain etching. Nicholas bandaged. Fierce. Rebuild. Always. Fire quelled dawn. Ranch scarred but standing. Cabins singed. Pastures blackened. Insurance claims. Community barn raisings knit recovery. Hammers ringing solidarity. Potlucks feeding hope. Through it, love's depth plumbed. Gary's vulnerability in physio. Nicholas's steadfast blueprints for fire breaks. They emerged forged, scars badges. Bond unbreakable. Spring's rebirth mirrored theirs. Calves frisking new grass. Wildflowers defiant in char. Anniversary picnic atop bluff. Wind gentle. Gary knelt anew. Marry me proper? Vows were start. This life's vow. Nicholas. Tears joyful. Yes. Every day. Years unspooled tapestry. Adoptions considered. Youth center founded. Travels blending worlds. Chicago visits with Gary in cowboy boots. Wyoming holidays with city kin. Conflicts mellowed wisdom. Romance seasoned comfort. In elder dusk. Porch rockers creaking. Grandchildren romping fields. They'd clasp hands. Eyes meeting eternal. Stranded once. Nicholas murmur. Found forever. Gary grin crooked. Sheltered you. Best damn choice. Fade to horizon. Sun dipping gold home. Whole. Human. Decades etched their story into the land's very grain. The Harlan Hail spread a beacon for wanderers seeking solace in Wyoming's embrace. Gary and Nicholas, silver-threaded now, moved with the unhurried grace of men who danced with tempests and emerged woven tighter. The ranch had grown, not in sprawl, but in soul. Eco-cabins nestled like birds' nests, solar panels glinting on barn roofs, a community garden feeding locals through lean winters. Their love, once fragile as first snow, had hardened to the quiet strength of old oaks, roots entwined against any gale. Mornings began ritual. Gary in the kitchen, coffee brewing slow as sunrise, while Nicholas sketched final tweaks to the youth center expansion. A safe haven for LGBTQ+ kids from rural hollows, modeled after their own hard-won truths. Another mural wall, Nicholas would say, pencil flying. Stories, not silence. Gary'd lean over, kiss nape soft. Like ours. Keeps them dreaming. Afternoons split paths but converged evenfall. Gary overseeing trail rides for therapy groups. Veterans finding peace in saddle sway. Nicholas consulting pro bono for tribal land trusts. Bridging divides with ink and empathy. Evenings. Porch symphonies, guitars strumming Johnny Cash. Fireflies winking approval. Hands clasped against rail. Watching stars stitch the dome. Conflicts arose. Softer now. Gary's gruff resistance to fancy apps for herd tracking. Nicholas's wanderlust tugging toward coastal conferences. But resolutions flowed easy. Compromises laced laughter. Apologies brewed with humor. Old dog. New tricks. Gary'd quip. Downloading the app with exaggerated size. Nicholas counter. Wander with me next time. Your drawl charms panels flat. Betrayals? Echoes only. Lessons etched deep. Daniel faded to footnote. A Christmas card once. Ignored. His life tabloid fodder. Comeuppance complete. Jake's shadow? Long banished. Gary's trust rebuilt in Nicholas's daily devotions. Notes tucked in lunch pails. Surprise getaways to hot springs. Humanism bloomed fullest in giving. Scholarships named for lost parents. Funding city kids' ranch camps. Panels at pride events. Gary's twang demystifying cowboy queers. They mentored couples adrift. Letters answered gentle. Storms pass. Anchor each other. Climax revisited in subtlety. Health's thief crept. Gary's heart murmur demanding pacemaker. Surgery a shadowed valley. Nicholas held vigil sterile white, reciting vows like mantra. Post-op. Recovery ranch bound. Gary weak but wry. Guess I owe you another life. Nicholas. Tears veiled. Partners. Pay up slow. Spring post-op. They scattered ashes. Gary's dad's under aspens. Nicholas's parents mingled lakeside. Chicago pilgrimage closing circles. Full now, Gary whispered windswept. They'd approve. Grandkids arrived mosaic. Adopted niece's boy. Boisterous towhead roping calves. Biological via surrogacy. Dark curls like Nicholas's. Blue eyes Gary's gift. Holidays chaos joyful. Tables groaning turkey and tamales. Stories circling fire. Blizzard origins. Wildfire stands. Auction miracles. One eve. Autumn gold flooded. Gary pulled Nicholas to the ridge site of firsts. Scars. Salvations. Blanket spread. Thermos steaming. He pressed a deed anew. Half mine. Half yours. But all ours. Nicholas traced signatures. Voice thick. Always was. Kiss slow. Timeless. Horizon swallowing sun. Stranded traveler, Gary murmured. Rancher fool. Found home. Together, Nicholas echoed. Lost no more. Years layered. Bodies slowing but spirits soaring. Final winter. Snow soft as eiderdown. They wintered in. Quilts piled. Tales retold till voices hushed. Gary first. Passing gentle, heart stilled mid-laugh. Nicholas's hand in his. Graveside. Under aspens dual-marked. Mourners swelled. Kin. Ments. Strangers touched afar. Nicholas spoke brief. Wind whipped. He sheltered me. We sheltered each other. Home's not end. Its echo. Ranch endured. Legacy living. Center thriving. Cabins hosting honeymoons. Paths named Harlan's hope. Nicholas wandered less. Rooted deep. Dating tentative. A widower's dance. Honoring without replacing. In quiet. Porch empty but full. He'd murmur to stars. Miss you, partner. Hold the light. Fade to endless sky. Wyoming vast. Love story. Dramatic. Emotional. Romantic. Human. Eternally American. Two souls. One home. Forever found.